everybody, Corey here, and just wanted to do a video on the Atomic deck. There's been a lot of talk about it. There's not really, I haven't seen a whole bunch of reviews. I think there's a lot of reviewers staying quiet about it. Um, I just want to share my thoughts. This isn't really a review. This is kind of like one of those first impression kind of videos. Um, so I'm going to give you some thoughts about it, some of my thoughts about it, tell you a little bit about it, and kind of let you decide what you want to do from there. Um, and I've been planning on doing this basically since I got the deck. In fact, I originally wasn't even going to buy this because all the magic that I get, I buy myself. Nothing is sent to me. Um, obviously, if you've seen past reviews, where I've received threats from them. But we're going to talk about the Atomic deck. And it's it's decisive. So Craig Petty, I mean, you know my feelings on Craig, but Craig Petty puts out a lot of stuff, um, and there's a lot to take in with this. So I will say, I calling it the ultimate any card at any number. This is not an A can. This is not an any card at any number. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. This is a most cards at most numbers, but it is not any card at any number. So let's just get that out of the way first. It's $50, and like I said, you're getting most cards at most numbers, and you're getting this deck. And I know everyone, of course, is going crazy. Well, I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people are going crazy because it's not a bicycle deck. If you know me, I don't care. I use bicycles to practice with. When I perform with other decks. I hate bicycle playing cards. For me, they're garbage. They're just trash cards. So this doesn't bother me. What does bother me is I do wish that you would get a second deck of these, like a normal deck. Just because I'm not going to do a normal set with the cards that I'm using and then switch out and bring in a trick deck if they don't match what cards I'm using. And these cards, when I looked them up, the red, they've been discontinued since like 2022. So you can't get them. So I don't know if there's a deal to reprint these because of the Atomic deck or what, but these are not available. You might be able to find them on eBay. But yeah, so that's kind of a complaint that I have. Another thing is when you're doing this, there's no memorization work. I do believe it is in Stack. Well, it is technically in Stack, but there's no memorization work. You have two options for getting the information. So there is a web app, which you go to the website like you do with any other web app, click on the ellipses, add to home screen, or add as a Insta app or whatever on the iPhone. And then you just have like an app on your phone, and that allows you to use. I don't think this is going too much in it. That allows you to use your notepad, and honestly, you could just make something in Canva to make it work in there, because like I use Google Keep, it works fine. I can actually show you what that looks like. Let me find where I have the stupid thing at. So mine looks a little bit different than it normally would, but that's Google Keep, and I'm able to use that. So there's that little bit where on Android there is a little bit of an issue where when you get it all set up, it puts a weird border around it. It does not align. If you force close out of the web app and then reopen it, it should work fine. The other thing is a website that you go to that's set up to look like an official university website that is used for stats. And there you can select a card, any of the 52 cards, and you can select a position, and it calculates the chances of that card landing at that specific number. You are limited. I think I think in the video they say there's a 90% success rate. Roughly, it's 89 point something. The videos have already been updated because of feedback and because of videos and people complaining. So now the first video is even longer than it was before, um, where Lloyd breaks in and has additional information on it. But I can say from performing this a few times, it took a lot to get cards to work. And I don't know if it's just my luck. The first time I did it, it took about 9 times to get a percentage that actually works. The second time took about 5. Um, so talking off, like the way they have you kind of state it, you're getting trying to get the low, like a really low percentage, something like 5 and below. Um, that's just really annoying though when someone's having to keep going through and redo it. The other option is to go through the notes and take multiple um, cards and positions and narrow it down from there. That works okay, but I prefer the Unistat site, honestly, because then I don't have to do anything on my phone. It makes more sense to have them do something on their phone than on my phone. And I've seen people complain about the justification of the site or of the Notes app, like having to write it down because people will forget. People do forget. People forget their cards all the time. And now you're throwing in a second number where they're going to have to remember a card and a number for you to do the trick. Now, I do like that you can do this without knowing their card and without knowing their number that they chose. So that's pretty rad. I will say also, um, I don't think this is going into exposing anything. The cards are thin, so I don't want to say that they're fragile. Though I've seen people complaining that their cards are all bent up and everything. I think that's just simply people hold cards with a death grip. I see it all the time. People squeezing the hell out of a regular deck of cards, and you cannot do that with these cards. How this is set up, I think, is pretty genius. And it has it listed. Oh, where's it at? It has it listed on here. There's an intermediate effect. I would not call this intermediate. I would say this is a beginner's effect. So I'm glad they didn't have it marked as advanced or expert, but I would honestly say this is something that I would easily sell to a beginner at work when I was working at a magic shop, and explain, like, sit down, go through everything with them. But this is, to me, this is a beginner effect. I'm going to call it intermediate. Like, do I think this will fit for everybody? No, I don't. And this whole thing, this whole video, I'm sure is probably very discombobulated because I'm just kind of like, it's early in the morning, and I was just like, I'm going to record this. But is this something that'll fit for everybody? No. Anything that Craig and Lloyd put out, has their ultra super fan base. I would say 40% of that fan base is pretty toxic with any kind of negative pushback. But I don't think this is necessarily a bad trick. I do think it's pretty brilliant how it works. But I also would say that if you're already due an ACAN, a true ACAN, and you've put in the work, I don't really think that this is going to be for you. I think if it's something where you've struggled with doing an ACAN, like you've struggled with the math of it, or you don't like the having to kind of move things around to reposition things to hit the ACAN, then maybe this is for you. Also note, you cannot shuffle these. I don't know why you'd want to, but like, the order that this deck is in is the order that this deck is in. If you shuffle them for performance, this will no longer work unless you reset it. But it is easy to reset. There are markings on the back that tell you everything that you need to know. But the atomic deck's going to be a flavor for how you want to do things. Like I said, if you already do an ACAN and you're comfortable with that ACAN, do it. Like, I don't see a point in switching over this. But I think if you're a beginner and you're interested in ACAN, which I think ACAN is the worst trick. Honestly, if I'm sitting down and I'm going somewhere or I'm at a show and a magician starts doing an ACAN, I get up and leave. I find them extremely boring. This is no different. Craig going through on these with Lloyd, they're sitting there together and they're going through numbers. It's the most boring thing in the world watching this done. But that's any ACAN. It's not just exclusive to the Atomic deck. But if you're interested in ACAN and you don't feel comfortable putting in the work, you don't, because you have to have a deck memorized, and you don't want to have a memorized deck, this might be for you. I do think that it's pretty solid. Um, I think Destiny Dial by Craig Petty is better, honestly, and half the price, maybe even less than half, less than half the price. But um, yeah, so if you're just curious, it's $50. I mean, there's been worse Magic released at $50. And like I said, I don't think this is bad. It's not for me. I'm probably not going to do it. I might break it out once in a while. If people are at the house and are like, hey, can you show me something? I might break it out for that instance, just because it is a very impossible thing. But you do have to get to the right percentages recalled. But is it for you? And that's going to be the big question, and I can't answer that. Like I said, I'm not going to give it a rating. I'm not going to say it's 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 3 out of 5, nothing like that. I'm not going to say yay or nay on it. I think this is very much a ask people that you know that have it and that do an ACAN what they think of it. Like I said, I don't like ACAN. I don't do ACAN. And if I was going to do one that didn't take any work, it would be Destiny Dial. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Congrats. Craig gets a lot of buzz on his things, and be it positive and or negative, it gets people talking. It gets people looking at the stuff. It gets things heated. There was another review that came out, Sean Devine, that like he crumpled one of the cards and threw it out. Like top first review, just ripped it apart, and I don't necessarily completely disagree with everything he says, but I don't necessarily agree with everything. It's just one of those things, like, if you were doing an ACAN already, I don't see this being for you. But, if it's something, again, like I've said this a few times now, if it's something that you've been interested in, or you just like the way this looks, maybe pick it up, but just know that you're not going to be able to get these cards. I would have much rather this been done like in a Tally Ho, which I understand USPCC is going to be more expensive if you're trying to go through with that, but either a Tally Ho or this come out with a whole reprint of these decks, and this style becomes more widely available, because that's the other thing that holds me back. I'm not going to perform with a deck of cohorts for an evening and then like, oh, let me show you something else, and then pull out a completely different deck of cards. That to me is weird. The only excuse I can see to do that is if I'm ending my set and I'm just ripping up just a crap ton of cards during my set and just destroying the deck. It's like, you know what, we need a new deck for this. Let me pull this out. And the justification is there that like you have a deck in a very specific order set up for it, which it has to be. And you could put that out there, and that perfect justification. It's just not something I don't like doing. It's why I don't do a lot of gaff deck stuff. I don't like movements, like switching out decks and not being in line with what I use. But anyways, that's just kind of my thoughts on the Atomic deck. It's available at all your major Magic retailers. Look online. It's very divisive. People either love it. Well, I shouldn't say they either love it or they hate it. They either love it, they way over love it, and they're just frothing at the mouth to get Craig's cock in their face and Lloyd's, or they absolutely hate it. I haven't seen a lot of people that are really neutral on it. But anyways, pick it up. Reach out to people you know who have it, who do both a real ACAN and have this, and get their thoughts on it and their place for it. And check out a bunch of different reviews. Check out positive, check out negatives. Get everything from it before you if you're thinking about picking this up. It's always good to be well informed, and I do think, like, I think in most cases, if you buy this, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I think you might, when you hit the method, be like, oh, I wasn't too surprised by the method. I was kind of on the right track after I saw the video. I just didn't quite know how they got there. So, pretty smart thinking, but again, not really for me. But anyways, thanks for checking out the video. Kind of long and drawn out for my thoughts, my boring thoughts for the morning. But yeah, thanks for watching the video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Let's have a conversation down below. What are your thoughts on the Atomic Deck and Craig Petty releases in general? Or what's your favorite actual ACAN?